some of these people, they age so fast. They lose all of their fat, but they lose all of their muscle mass. They lose everything. It looks like it just drains their bones. They just turn into they like waste away to nothing, like the air being let out of a balloon.
Have at it. What do we got?
Okay. As research into microdosing continues, and with places like Colorado decriminalizing certain psychedelics, what are the medical, ethical, and societal implications of their use for things like migraines, mental health, and cognition?
So I wonder how you came up with this topic.
It just came to me one night.
Mind. Yes. So anybody who follows us over on TCF already knows this, so I'm not spilling the beans here. But Beth is a sufferer for 20 years now of chronic migraine.
Yes.
And though we've never tried microdosing, because such things aren't exactly legal here.
They're not legal in this state.
It is certainly something that a lot of people have done. And you're asking me if it's ethical, asking us if it's ethical.
Well, I asked what the implications are. Medical, ethical, societal, for things like mental health, cognition, migraines, because it has passed and it has been decriminalized in Colorado. And there's lots of studies that are currently being run. You can microdose in Colorado.
Michael, my thoughts are complicated. Do you want to lead off?
Complicated
too.
Mine are complicated, but I think I know how I land on this. I'll try to talk myself through it because it's a complicated. This is a maze, all right. This is a labyrinth of ideas, but I think
for clarification, we're not advocating or endorsing microdosing. We're just talking about it. We're just talking about the implications. So don't take what we're saying and go, yay, I should go try this. No. That's not what we're doing.
Consult your doctor for what's best for you.
Yes. Before you run out and do LSD. You didn't hear it from me. I will say, I'll lead off with that. Actually, I know that there have been studies done that show that LSD, for example, helps with certain types of mental issues and certain, I can't remember if it was schizophrenia or something like that. Look, there's a lot of
they've been doing it in Sweden.
There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of things that we have painted in society as drugs are bad, okay? And yet they're not all bad. And there are certain fringe cases where they can even be beneficial to some people. And in terms of ethics, I have no problem with it from an ethical standpoint. I think it comes down to personal morality or personal choice. So long as, it's done in good faith, I really do believe that we can advance on certain types of treatments and do better for society by allowing the research to continue. Now, can there be an argument made that it'll become like medical marijuana, where it's just kind of a joke, where there are people that really do use marijuana medicinally and they need that and it benefits them and it's great. People with cancer and fibromyalgia and all this other stuff, they take it and they rave about it and they think it's great. Could it become something like that? Maybe, but. In terms of ethical issues, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I know that there are people that just are hardline no to drugs, period, across the board. And to those people, I say, well, then don't do it. Don't do microdosing. Don't get involved in it. But those that think it's okay and they want to try it on themselves, or they're part of a medical study, I think that should be allowed to go on. I have no problem with it. I don't really see it necessarily being bad. This isn't like what we were talking about before with, becoming computer brain. I think this is a little bit different. This isn't eugenics. This isn't turning ourselves into, bionic war machines or something. This is a little bit different. I think if it's there, if we can find something that will cure chronic migraines, for example, just pulling that out of thin air because you brought that up. But no, whether it's migraines or whether it's some sort of anxieties or schizophrenia, any mental health issue, then yeah, I'm all for it.
It could also cross into, they've done some preliminary studies on things like Alzheimer's, for example, because that's a cognition issue. And can psychedelics help refire the neural networks in your brain so that you don't deteriorate at the same rate?
Anybody that's watched a family member succumb to dementia, to Alzheimer's, I think for them, it's an easy answer. It's easy just to say no and paint with a broad brush, but I just think it's not that simple. So I will lean cautiously on the side of pushing forward with that sort of thing.
I have very mixed views on this matter.
Well, we actually, I know I'm not supposed to be interjecting here, but we took care of my father and he had mental issues.
Yes, from his stroke.
From his strokes.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of mental decline.
There was. I don't think anything was going to fix that, though.
No, but if something had been tested to a point where it was proven that it could, those last couple of years could have been a lot better than they were.
Maybe. I'm personally always have been, and this is just me. And look, I've spent most of my adult life looking after people who have had medical needs and they're taking medications for it and everything else. So I can see that side of it where you want to find something that works. And if microdosing would work, you'd want to embrace it. And I could see that for my wife, where if, microdosing of mushrooms like fixed her migraines, look, there's part of me that want to say, yeah, let's do that. But there's another part of me, a very strong part of me, that feels like we're in a big damn hurry and we're all too agreeable to the idea of fixing ourselves chemically. And it worries me because I don't know that we've got a strong enough grasp on exactly how the human body works, and the fact that every body is different, everybody processes things different. Just what kind of damage are we doing? And is anybody not sick anymore? I mean, seriously, everybody's got some kind of. It's like, it used to be when you introduced yourself, it's like, what do you do for a living? Well, I do this. Oh, cool. I do that. It's good to meet you. Now it's, hi, I'm John. I've got these 5 disorders. How about you? And I wonder how much of that is brought on by the fact that we're always chasing solutions chemically. Have we done more harm than good? Have we broken the human race through this pursuit? I don't know. I'm not an expert. It's just, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial. It's just a question that I have, and the question I've always had. So I would always tend to lean towards less is more. If there are ways to get through things without throwing more chemicals on top of it, I'm in favor. That having been said, I think I would trust something that nature grew, like
I was
mushroom,
just going to ask that.
Over
something chemically developed in a lab.
Over meth from Joe's house of meth 2 blocks from us, where he's cooking it in his basement and somehow hasn't blown up the house yet.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if that made a difference.
Yeah, I think I would run there first.
Hold on, what's the address for Joe's house of meth again? Let me write that down.
We'll get you that after show.
Okay.
Actually, Beth put it in the private chat for me. No, I worry about this constant chasing of better living through medicine, that we end up doing more harm than good. And you know, and I say that because here in this house with your migraines, Beth, we've tried so many things that in the end have done more harm than good, and we've had to quit them.
Yes.
There's so many things out there that would break you if you kept up with it,
Yes.
and very few things actually help. But again, that's anecdotal, it's just you.
Mhm.
But I don't know, it's concerning to me. But again, I trust something that's grown by nature over something that's made by man.
So I was just going to say, so Dan, but if, let's say, the old magic mushrooms worked for Beth, right? And there weren't any, real side effects, if
Minus
they actually,
pretty colors.
right, minus the pretty colors and maybe like, I don't know, you talk to a dead relative, but other than that, if it really did work, wouldn't you want to do whatever you could?
Yes, to a point. I think you can go too far chasing things. I think there are certain times where you've got to accept your lot in life just a little bit. Not everything's going to get fixed. So at some point, the pursuit has to be tempered with reality and what's possible. So you have to consider that. I would also say, because I think this was mentioned, I forget, I don't remember if Beth, you mentioned it, or Michael, if you did, but some of this also has to be tempered with a certain amount of responsibility. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're missing right now in our world is, are people responsible enough to, if they're given this opportunity, this thing works for them, are they responsible enough and capable enough to keep that level of responsibility, to take it the way that they're supposed to dose the way that they're supposed to, and not go,
Right.
oh, this makes me feel so much good, let me do 5 times the amount. And then the next thing
Right.
you've got an addict.
Sure.
One of my biggest concerns when it comes to drugs is the addiction level of it. And some of that is through experience that I've seen in my life. I've told the story on the other channel about the kid I grew up with who got into marijuana as a teenager. That gatewayed him into other things. Long story short, he ended up, him and a couple other people I know, robbing the drug dealer and killing him, ended up in prison. The guy that I was closest with somehow got out, but a couple of years later he died, and we're pretty sure he had OD'd. So it can be such a life ruiner if you don't have a level of responsibility for it. That is one of the biggest fears I have. And you hear the argument all the time that the drugs are the victimless crime. We hear that over on TCF, but the rippling harm that happens to the community, to the family, to all of that. So the responsibility end of things is one of the biggest things that concerns me.
In
and
a vacuum.
I don't know how you solve for X on that, but
right.
It's a problem.
In a vacuum, I don't think, I've never had a problem with it. I guess I fall into the old libertarian kind of viewpoint on, of the, hey, if you want to go home and do a line of Coke, go home and do a line of Coke. Just don't get behind the wheel. Don't ruin my day because you wanted to go and do some PCP. To me, I don't care. And if it helps you, we've seen these, on the other channel, we've seen these cases where people talk about how they're in end stage and, they do cocaine or they do whatever they do. In and of itself, I don't have a problem with it. It's when you start to get on the roads and impact other people. Yeah. People that self-medicate. The other way I was going to go with this, Dan, and, I think about this because Michelle and I talk about this all the time. One of the big drugs that's out there right now that it seems like everybody is on. Seemingly everybody. Ozempic.
Oh, yeah.
Or some variant thereof. Loss. Yes.
Even though it wasn't created for weight loss.
And I will tell you, a couple years ago, I went to the doctor and I had this wonderful doctor, and then the nurse practitioner comes in and she tells me, oh, hey, if you want, we can start you on Ozempic next year because it's like $100 a month or something. And I was like, nah, I can lose weight. I did it before. I mean, so far I haven't. It's no secret here that I could probably lose a few pounds, but I did it before. I did it before without any sort of help, any sort of drugs. There was a time in my life I lost, almost 80 pounds. I know how to do it. It starts by saying I'm full, and maybe putting down the fork. But the other thing is, I don't need necessarily there are certain fringe cases where I think Ozempic can be good, but everybody's taking it, and you can spot people that are on it. Catherine O'Hara just died, and Michelle and I've been talking about this. Like, she looked pretty healthy until I guess, was she on Ozempic? Like, some of these people, they age so fast. They lose all of their fat, but they lose all of their muscle mass. They lose everything. It looks like it just drains their bones. They just turn into they like waste away to nothing, like the air being let out of a balloon. And yeah. I'm wondering how much damage Ozempic is doing. As I know it's doing some good. I know it helps some people, but I mean, I've seen a lot of people that are 50 years old that look 80 because they not only did they lose weight, they lost way too much. They're 5'9" and they're 88 pounds. They, you use them to get the football out of the sewer. I mean, it's like, like, what are you doing?
Well, Mike, this is kind of going into what I was talking about, like with a level of responsibility and kind of accepting to a certain extent what your lot in life is. Not everybody is going to be pencil thin. And so they find this drug that will help them, and then they're all running to it all in what I would argue would be an abusive and reckless manner, and you've got to stay on it to stay thin. So for them, the thin is the high, and they've got to stay on this drug to keep that up, or it's been proven when you get off of that, the majority of these people, they put the weight back. So it's not long term. And but then that's kind of my same concern with the microdosing of things and whatnot is does it become almost a lifestyle for you, where it's not so much the helping as much as it's just it's what I do.
Well, right.
At that point, it's it's not doing what you need it to do.
Well, Michelle and I talked about it all the time. In the 80s, it was so in vogue to do cocaine. All those actors and athletes and everybody in the 80s that did all the cocaine, they had the cocaine bodies, right? They were all thin, and then they got off the coke in the 90s and 2000s, and they blew up. They, everybody started to look like Sir Mix-a-Lot, and it was
got back.
It became wild. So, we've been talking about that too. And Ozempic is kind of the same thing. Like, if you're on it, it's like anorexia in a shot or anorexia in a pill. And, I know that's Michelle's thing. I'm kind of getting around to being on board with it. And the other thing is the side effects. People don't talk about that.
Oh God.
This isn't just, I got some dry mouth, or I have the sniffles now and then. Some people lose their eyesight. We don't even know the full extent of damage that this does to internal organs. Who knows? Because it's like an appetite suppressant, as I understand it, among other things. And who knows how? Obviously, if you're not taking in junk food, sure, but you're probably also not taking in proteins and vitamins and things that are sort of essential for survival. So that's my situation. That's my issue, I think, with some of these. Not just Ozempic. It's not just to pick on that. There's a lot of these pharmaceuticals that are, does the good outweigh the bad?
Oh, I've tried plenty of those.
Yeah. And normally it's the bad that's outweighing the good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like I said, this is where I'll wrap it up as we get under a minute here for this topic. I fear that we don't understand human chemistry well enough and we're not disciplined enough.
Yeah.
That, I mean, look, it's complicated for me. Again, if I found something that fixed Beth's migraines, yeah, I think we'd probably be all over it. But I think there's a level of discipline that we have between the two of us, because she knows that I won't let her go too far with stuff, and she generally isn't of that mind either. So there's that. But I think we're more the exception than the rule.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with it. Any final
Agreed.
thoughts?
I agree with that, Dan. I mean, for the most part.
Fair enough. Hey, thanks for watching. In the Blind is a news show for Mike and me, and we'd really love it if you could hit the subscribe button, do a thumbs up, leave a comment. All of those things really help this channel get found by other people, so we'd really appreciate the support. Thanks so much.